Welcome everyone to What the Force, and welcome to our part 2 of our Solo: A Star Wars Story movie review. We will start where the conversation left off.
And then we get Paul Bettany, who's one of my favorite actors, and I'm so happy he has had this rejuvenation.
Yes.
as an actor in the last little while. I mean, he's married to Jennifer Connelly, so how sad can we really feel for him?
I totally didn't know that.
What? Oh yeah, no, he's Mrs. Jennifer Connelly.
But he got the Marvel bump, so he's back.
He got the Marvel bump.
He's
He's
back
amazing.
on the A-list.
He tells this really amazing story about like being Jarvis and then getting the call from Joss to actually become Vision, and he's like, "Oh my god, my career is saved." Like, no, because he literally had nothing on the go until Joss said, "Well, you just make sense to be Vision, and you physically fit the character, and you're really great, and we love working with you." And yeah, that basically was like the thing that turned his career
Didn't realize
around
that.
recently. I hope he gets lots more work. Yeah.
Oh, and so he was he wasn't a human in this.
He was supposed to be a different character. They had to recast him because the person couldn't do the research.
I didn't know
shoots,
that.
Right? Yeah, it was I don't remember the actor.
Sorry,
What's with
well,
your
my
knuckles?
camera's down here and my computer's up here, and it's a weird laptop. I apologize. It should be up here, but it's not.
Okay. I don't remember. He was recast because of the reshoots, and the original actor couldn't do the reshoots, and he had some funky stuff going on with the scars on his face and his eyes. Whenever he'd get mad, everything went red.
Visually, I think he was my favorite character. I loved the way that he looked, and yeah, when his emotions got riled up and the scars spread out and his eyes turned, it looked physically unpleasant. Like it looked like the angrier he got, the more uncomfortable he got too. Like it looked painful, and I thought that was it was so beautifully done, and it was such a subtle shift when it happened. It wasn't just blah and alien. He was it grew and it sort of expanded as his emotions grew up and then faded back down, but it did it so gradually that it had to do it a few times before you're catching. Is it just the light? Is it just is it a matter of the makeup being inconsistent from scene to scene? It was just I loved the way that character looked.
Apparently, his character Dryden Voss is a near human, and the Tarkin family is also near human.
Oh.
Which is a cool Wikipedia fact brought to you by Ty Black. But yeah, I did look it up later because I was like, wait, they never explained the lines on his face. I don't understand. But that's what apparently it is.
He's human.
Near human, yeah.
Huh.
So
That's cool.
look that up on Wikipedia. It's fascinating. Wikipedia.
Thank you for this advertisement for Wikipedia. Your source for all things Star Wars. No, I liked him a lot. I liked the weapons he was using because they reminded me a lot of the Praetorian Guard in The Last Jedi, especially how they connected together. And actually, I found out after the movie that the fighting style he uses is used by the Praetorian Guard. And that is what he taught Kira, and she uses in the elevator or when she kicks ass and they're like, "What was that?" And he's like, this fighting style. And yeah, that was the thing that he taught her, which was this Praetorian Guard fighting style, which we see very heavily in The Last Jedi, which also a part of that whole Last Jedi sequence is that there's always two in those Praetorian Guards. And so she was his partner.
Two there always is, the master and the apprentice.
Yes. There's always two in that fighting style.
Yeah.
I really liked the use of that fighting style for Emilia Clarke because, and just some trivia, the fighting style is called Terras Kasi, which was actually a reference to an old PlayStation Star Wars fighting game that was absolutely awful, so it never got brought back up again, and they're sort of doing a throwback there. But in so many of these movies, they'll take the strong female character trope and just have it be, okay, here's this 85-pound girl who is now just going to beat the crap out of some 200-pound guys by normal fighting style, by just punching them. That's an air quotes strong female character thing, because they have these characters. Female actors typically are very small, very slight build, and they couldn't do these like physical strength based fighting styles that they so often are given in these sorts of movies. So giving her this fighting style where it's very fluid and it uses a lot of angular momentum, it's very akin to capoeira, and it's a fighting style that can take somebody with her build and make her incredibly effective in a fight. So it's not doing the quote-unquote strong female character trope. It's taking a character to use what she has and make it as effective as possible. And I thought it's a beautiful fighting style on its own, and it was very well used for the application that they were using it.
Oh, I totally agree. When she did the kind of double cross thing and she fought the way that she fought, I was like, this is cool. That is Emilia Clarke. Like, if it's not Emilia Clarke, if it's like her stunt double, that's awesome too. But regardless, that is a slim, female woman, like, who is fighting, and she's doing it with what she has. Like, I totally agree. I think that was very intentional on the part of the directors. Absolutely.
Yeah. And not like overpowering.
Well, and it's great that they finally made that decision instead of just having her like throw haymakers and knock guys out, because that's what's been used so long to show the trope of now she can kick ass. They actually showed her kicking ass in a way that she could. And then later on, when she's fighting again and she's got a cape on, and the cape it flows perfectly with the movements that she's making, and that's where I was really getting that capoeira vibe, that it looked very much like it could have been a choreographed dance, but looking at it from somebody with fighting experience and looking at the physics of it, it would work. So I'm sorry for saying the strong female character thing, but I was saying it in the connotation that we all understand it is, and being glad that they didn't fall back on it the way it's been fallen back on before.
Making it unrealistic.
Yeah. So yes, it was intentionally, I was being intentionally provocative.
I mean...
It's like you. I have to edit you
Just
out.
edit that whole part out, whatever.
Entire episodes. So, they end up being convincing Dryden to take on this other job, which is very risky, to get the unrefined fuel through from Kessel, bring it back to this other place, get it refined, and then bring it to Dryden. All right, two things. Kessel is known for spice mines.
Yeah.
They also mine fuel on Kessel? Cool, I guess.
It's one of the only places in the universe to get that.
Is that
fuel?
Has that been canon?
Yeah. They said that. They did. Well, they just said that in the movie. So yes, it is.
There's got to be a few places, but Kessel is also known for spice mines, because C-3PO complains about being sent to the spice mines of Kessel.
I think it's probably one of those, the miners found something, whatever that rift is that the fuel comes out of, while they were mining.
I ask a dumb fan question?
Sure.
You can ask. I mean,
Please do. I'm still a new fan for the most part. What is spice?
Spice is like a drug.
Is it a drug? Okay, that's what I thought.
Sort of. I mean, it's used in like it's an intoxicant. It's used added like in Legends of Luke Skywalker, as an example. Somebody adds it to a drink that is mixed with blue milk powder to like spice it up.
Cool.
It's like I think it's an intoxicant of some sort.
So it makes you feel good.
And why those areas are controlled by criminal cartels is the obvious reason. It's and so we get to see the pike when we get to Kessel.
I
which
love
is really
the aesthetic
cool.
that they went for on that planet, on Kessel, where there's a bunch of like pools of like kind of blue water.
Firefly did it better.
I don't think Firefly
Hands
did it
down.
better. I think Star Wars did it better.
I couldn't resist that for the second one. I'm sorry, that really was what it felt like. The indentured, as you said, it's the trope. It's the indentured servants walking around with chains on their ankles with the muddy water pits.
Yeah, I do wonder if they were inspired by or thought about Firefly while making a lot of this movie, but
Borrowed from.
I don't know.
I mean, I think these are just tropes that exist in film, and that very much maybe calls to Lord and Miller's maybe interpretation and setup of what they're like. Make it like this trope, because Firefly pulls on the same
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, I agree.
Other people do. So Lord and Miller are tropes. Ron Howard is a filmmaker.
Firefly is nowhere near original with anything that it ever did. It was just using tropes that existed before it. I mean, so they just might have coincidentally hit on the same notes, and that totally makes sense, but I don't know.
Yeah. So they have to fly through. Well, so first they need a ship.
We got to meet Lando first.
Yeah. They go to this cool bar, which has this cool like elephant tusk type skull at the entrance. There's robot fighting, which I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I was already freaking out as soon as we saw the robot fighting. And they walk in. We pass L3 briefly, so I knew what she looked like, so I was very excited just to they pass her, they go in, he goes and sits down with Lando, so you get to see Therm's scissor punch, which was awesome, and like they have this conversation, and he's amazing.
Well, and they introduced Donald Glover, and immediately, like he's already talking when you first see him, and he is Lando. Like that's the thing. He's got that smoothness, and he has the tone, and it was instantly that character. Like I thought he was absolutely brilliant in the role from the second he hit the screen.
Now, this is the comment I made earlier. He out Billy D'd Billy D in that role. I mean, Billy D was smooth. He was excellent, but there's something about Glover that was just a little more. And it was I'm not just Billy D is my Lando.
Yeah.
A little more in his prime. He was Lando at his most Lando.
And I would say like before he had learned to maybe be a little bit more cautious and a little bit more responsible too. So like just kind of just doing his thing, and he kept on calling Han kid at points, like it's Han and which was awesome.
Kid and Han.
Solved that, as well as that you leaned over to me, Liam, and said they've fixed the 20 parsecs thing.
Well, yeah, once they're at the end of it, when they're making the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, and that's been a long-standing issue that people have had, that no, a parsec is a unit of measure, not a measure of time. But I'm a sailor. I've sailed since I was a little kid, and the comparison that I made there since childhood was that in sailing, the fastest boats not only can actually move faster through the water, but they can take a higher line. So a faster boat can actually chart a shorter course through a racetrack. So the way I was seeing it was, okay, well, if it's having to maneuver around gravity wells and things like that, a faster ship can just chart a faster course. So it was something that was kind of an issue all along, but now they've finally just said, okay, here it is. Now we've got this navigational computer. We can cut through and we can take,
because they only had really the safe way you could go, which was that 20 parsec
they just fine
path.
It was very much a scene of saying, okay, everybody, now shut up about it.
Like there was a lot of like, okay, just shut up about it, fanboys.
Yeah, here, let's just close this door. Let's tie up these loose ends.
Lots
let's just
for the
make
canonical keepers.
Oh.
Hey, Ty?
Yeah. Wait, what are you trying to say to me about?
Yeah. No. Just like that, we've talked about this previously. Like, you know, we personally don't care that hyperfuel works the way it works, but there you go. Hyperfuel works the way it works.
I was shocked at how many things they were trying to explain with this movie, which is why I think it relied so heavily on the tropes. They had to deal with the familiar in order to deal with the unfamiliar in order to explain things. I mean, my husband even said as much because he hears me talking about like, oh, did you know that this happens in this comic or this book or whatever? And he's like, oh, that explains stuff. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I like that. And then he watched this movie and he was like, wow, that if I didn't know what you told me about this and this and this, then that wouldn't have made any sense to me, but it would have still like worked or whatever. So yeah, no, it's this movie focused a lot on trying to connect everything without overburdening the casual viewer. It was a lot.
Too much. Yeah, there might have been some overburden in some ways.
Relying on tropes helps because it makes the viewer not focus so much on that new stuff or on like the unfamiliar by giving them a frame that is familiar.
So we meet Lando, and then we get my heart grew 3 sizes with this scene because I've literally been talking about this for years on the podcast, only months. But we get droid liberation movement.
Yeah.
Well, L3 freaks out on the droids being forced to fight, and I love that there's like an organic who was like, oh. Yeah, he's like, no, they want to do it.
From a Spike Lee movie.
And it's like, I like, oh man, I was just like vibrating in my seat. Like I was like, oh my god, it's happening.
It's so funny that you just said a white guy from a Spike Lee movie, because that's like Adam Driver now. I'm just saying connection. Oh my god.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm gonna go on a mini rant. Droids are sentient.
She uses that
Star
word.
Wars universe doesn't treat them
L3
that way.
says you are sentient during the fight. I mean, it could not have been more hitting over the head, like hitting over the audience's head with it. Like, you are sentient. Don't you realize? Don't you understand? Like, ugh.
And all of this liberation is going to tie into a big theme of liberating bonds, liberating chains, and I think it's going to lead to a Stormtrooper rebellion in episode 9. I think that's where it's leading. What do you guys think of the droid stuff? 'Cause you know how I feel.
I thought it was really cool, and I thought it was an example of they covered every single line we've talked about. You know, well, I'd wipe her, but she's got the most, complete navigational data in the entire universe, and she is weird as all. She's like, oh, he loves me. She's like, oh, what are you gonna do about Solo? He likes you. His heart rate. Lando likes me, but we just can't do that. It just wouldn't work out. And of course, I got the line from Pluto Nash. I think it was the name of the movie. It was it was an Eddie Murphy movie. And it was like, maybe an AC/DC adapter was needed or something.
Well, because Emilia Clarke even says, well, how would that work? And she's like, oh, we'd make it work.
Yeah.
It's like, that's exactly how Lando's droid would talk about it. Oh, we'd make it work.
Well, and she mentions in Last Shot that she kind of created herself. So she fixed herself with parts of other droids.
Because she's made up of astromechs and all sorts of different types of droids, and has self-programmed herself similar to R2-D2, has made special enhancements to himself. So these astromechs are known for having alterations and that make them special.
Yeah. And it totally it makes sense that she would kind of, maybe as she is, just like humans do, right? Like as she is growing up with Lando, however long she's been with him, which is years at least, that she's borrows from other droids the things that she needs to be Lando's partner.
Yeah. And like he says this line, which struck me as I was insulted, but then I was like, oh no, it's just a joke. Oh, okay, fine. He says, I'd wipe her, but she's got the most complete navigational, map in the galaxy. And I was like, oh, that's just like saying like, I'd kill her, but
I like her too much.
It's just like a joke.
Yeah.
I like her too much, or she's super useful. Like it's kind of like that.
I took it a bit differently, actually. I took it as he actually did think that at the time. At least that's what he was telling people he thought. But later, when she gets shot, that's that's not his droid. That's his wife, his girlfriend, however, his family.
Like best friends. Like because I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'm not saying they were doing anything, but it's like that. There's a major
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Han and Chewie. They had that partnership.
Well, and honestly, if you think for a second, like Lando and L3 had to have talked about sex. Like they had to have talked about relationships. They talked about it in the last
shot, so we know they did.
Exactly. So like that was the relationship they had. They had this like kind of weird best friend constantly crossing over lines, that.
Well, and like in the ship, she's like stiff or something, and she's like, I need you to do that thing, and he does this like weird shutter face, which is like I need you to like, I don't know,
lower. Oh, that's
lower. Whoa, too low. Yeah, like situation, like, like they had that kind of like he would get his hand up in there and fiddle with her pieces a bit.
That's amazing.
I mean, like and he kind of like had like okay. I think she was freed. I do not get the impression that I don't think that she felt owned. And I think she was there by choice.
I think he felt owned by her.
Well, and going back to the line that brought this whole thing up is, I think that was just sort of him around strangers when his droid is getting more personality than a droid ought to have, because she was pretty smarmy there, and she was condescending and that, and he was like, oh, I'd wipe her butt, and it was kind of making excuses for your uncouth friend.
This is such an interesting way to talk about rights.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just like I'm excited for more stories about this. We got so much in this movie, and we got a lot in The Legends of Luke Skywalker. We got a lot in Last Shot. I just want more droid rights stories.
Yeah.
I can't get sick of them. They're so wonderful.
Can I ask a casual fan question to the super fans before we get there? During the poker scene, there has to have been some significance behind the ship that Han said he had.
Yeah.
He gave a very specific model number, and I know that the theater seats did some wiggling when that happened, so there must have been something happening.
I actually didn't know what that ship was.
It's not armor.
James?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to disappoint you.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a cool ship. That's for sure.
Well, he gave a very specific model number, so I was thinking, okay, that has to refer to something that's in canon.
But I'm sure it does. I'm sure it means something. So, feel free if message us on Twitter and let us know, or shoot us an email, because like I did not know what that one was, and I haven't had a chance to rewatch the movie to like hear it and Google it. Yeah, okay. But no, I just got the impression it was a really cool ship, cooler than the Millennium Falcon, and it also showed that Han knew ships too. Right? Like he really knew ships. He knew all of these things from his past. So he plays Lando. Lando cheats like a mofo.
Mm-hmm.
He with the cards literally up his sleeve. Sabacc is such an interesting game. They talk a lot about it a lot in Bloodline, which is the Leia book just set before The Force Awakens. You can buy Sabacc cards, like it's out there, the rules and stuff like that. So
Star Wars Explained says something like how the whatever card that Lando was cheating with kind of went above and beyond the rules that they know apparently from Sabacc. So it kind of changed the lore just a little bit, but I feel like it was probably necessary. To show that he was cheating, they had to make sure that he had a card available to him that trumped all the other cards, and that was the only way that the audience would have like understood what was happening. So,
was that clear to you, Liam, what they were doing?
Yeah.
As far as the cheating in the game, that it was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think it was fine, and I like that Han kind of knew he had cheated, but like couldn't tell how.
Well, and it was also a case of we need him.
Yeah.
So he had to be a little bit more tactful than he's known for.
And let's just say Kira and Lando have totally done it.
I just assume that Lando and almost everyone had totally done it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So they go and try to get the Millennium Falcon.
It had been booted.
And it's impounded.
Yep.
Tobias Beckett knew how to get it out, and I like the scene where L3 had to like cut through the fence, but it was like part of her like astromech body, and so she's like, I can't do this while you're looking at me.
That was so funny. I wish more people in my theater would have laughed at that because it was hilarious. I was dying.
I laughed so hard at that. No, I don't know if anybody else laughed.
Laughing. I thought it was so funny. And you know what's really funny is I couldn't get over the fact that I kept picturing the girl who actually plays L3. Like, yeah. Because she played the character like in a suit. Like, I couldn't help but think about that. Like, the interactions on the set had to have been like infectious, because she as an actress is infectious, and her actually being in a suit and playing that character on the set, there's no other way they could have done it and have it come out the same. She was so funny. And then the conversation that she and Kira had about Lando and whatnot, like that was just so precious. Yeah.
Phoebe Waller.
Yeah, she's
Bridge
so
is the name of the actress. She was wonderful, and yeah, she was just so great. And like the little interactions with Lando and the little interactions with Kira, like, oh, it's so great. So they get onto the Millennium Falcon and they're going away, and we get to see how beautiful the Millennium Falcon is in its current ownership.
So clean.
So clean. But if you took a black light in there, there is invisibleness to that clean. There is stuff that you cannot get out. Honestly, that cape closet,
of course not.
That is not the first time two people have kissed in the cape closet.
That's probably the first time it stopped at that.
I was super happy that they kissed.
I mean, they were kind of interrupted and stuff.
At that moment, okay, so John Kasdan and Lawrence Kasdan said that they were handling romance in their movie Solo they were trying to be a little bit more obvious. They were a little bit more straightforward about the romance, as opposed to the new trilogy. Yes. They said as opposed to the new trilogy.
So they've called it a romance.
We're handling our romance a little bit more straightforward. And it's so true, right? Like the out straight, like the kiss in the coat closet is so, that was surprising to me. I mean, it wasn't surprising with the characters and the story and where it was going, but it was surprising for a Star Wars movie.
Well, and like, it's not the first time, like that'll be the first time that Han kisses somebody in the Millennium Falcon, but maybe, I mean, obviously not the last time, right?
Right. Well, I think we said this before, Han's love story comes in threes. So, as far as we know, so far. Yeah. We had the girl in the
as far as we
Last
know.
Shot novel,
Sana.
Yeah, Sana. Sana Staros, and then we had Kira. Yeah.
We have
And he falls hard for each of them.
Kira, and we have Leia.
Like, super hard.
Yeah. In different ways, too. Like, Kira is very much his childhood love. And if you listen to the love theme, I think it's actually called, like, Lando's Closet.
You know what it sounded like to me? I'll say this before I get your ear, because you have a Star Wars ear for these things. It sounded like
What?
Phantom of the Opera.
Yes!
Why did it sound like
I was
that?
literally freaking out. Because it sounds like the love
Yes.
theme between Christine and her
Yes.
childhood sweetheart, because it has this childhood sweetheart
Dude,
trope.
it was literally like, it went there, and then it dropped off into something else. And every time it would go there, I'd get super
Yeah.
distracted by it. I was like, that is Phantom of the Opera. I'm sitting in the theater thinking that is Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys heard that.
So glad I'm not the only one. So glad. Whew. I'm sorry.
I'm going to look up the name
Sorry,
of the song.
Liam and James.
Did you guys, so what did you guys think of The Closet other than don't bring a black light in there?
You know, they might have made fun of how many capes Lando had and how excessive it was, but
Right?
looking
Wasn't
around,
that
it really
many.
wasn't that many capes.
They called it a Cape Museum. In the book, they called it a Cape Museum, so.
Raoul.
Oh.
Raoul, and it sounded like think of me.
Think of me fondly.
Yes.
When you say goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay.
It had all of the young love song
Right?
tropes in it from a music perspective. Yeah. And that's what I've thought of.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Sorry, go ahead, guys.
Well, I was saying that I think it was very much foreshadowing for the future of the Falcon when just before the kiss, when Han takes the cape on the hanger away from Kira and goes to hang it up, but misses and drops it on the floor. And that was, for me, that was such a Han
Yeah.
moment of,
And
you know,
doesn't pick
I'll
it
try
up.
to be good, but and it, yeah, and I think that's
Mhm.
Yes,
like,
that was
I felt
the
sorry
first
for the
thing.
Falcon at that point because that was the start of it getting to where it's going to be.
I liked when they panned into that room, like, so it's his quarters. They like focused weirdly on the bed for a while, and that was a really
Mhm.
cool visual to be like, this is what these characters are thinking about, and then they talk about it. It's very obvious that they had this history, but yet, like, she was in a committed relationship, and it wasn't just an organizational
Mhm.
relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was involved with Dryden.
But that's also Lando's bed, which means, I mean, it's probably sentient on its own at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like some solid interactions. I loved like when L3 leaves and Han is like talking with Lando about the ships, and we tie back to him talking about his dad, and Lando says about his mom, and his mom was like the best lady in the
Mhm.
galaxy, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But that actually ties into one of the themes that we actually see, and where I feel like some of the character motivations are like there but not there, in that they're constantly bringing up the absence of family.
Yeah. I thought about this, especially when Lando said, like, oh, my mom, she was the greatest. Like, it ties into their characters so much about how Lando is very, like, he's kind of got that positive femininity in him. And Han has this, you know, kind of negative masculine that's always coming out. Like, his dad probably wasn't the greatest, but Lando thinks his mom was the greatest. And that, like, super shows in their characters. But it does tie into the fact that, like, this Star Wars movie, being the only one, does not cover an actual family. But it talks about it
Mhm.
constantly.
It constantly talks about the absence of family, and even Enfys Nest brings up her mother being gone.
Yeah. Corey thought that was really weird.
Yeah.
Corey kept saying, wait, who is her mom? Who is her mom? Does that tie into canon? Like, does that mean something?
Yeah, and we don't know who Lando's mom is. We don't know who Solo's dad is. We don't know who Enfys Nest's mom is. We just don't know these. It's like they're what is it when you? It's like a dangling participle. Like like the sentence is cut off.
Well, with Enfys Nest, what I got out of that conversation that they had was that the Enfys Nest that we met was actually the second one. Because she said, if my mom still wore the mask. So we could get that that Enfys Nest is basically a generational character being played by
it's like
that family.
The Pirate Roberts or whatever from
Dread Pirate Roberts or Zorro going from Anthony Hopkins to Antonio Banderas and showing that it's the person behind the mask carrying on the same name because the name
and
carries
she certainly
the
had
gravitas.
more purpose than the other characters that didn't have as a close connection to their family.
Well, yeah, because when she first takes off the mask, I was thinking, wow, she is way younger than I would have expected. But then saying, if my mom was still around, if she was still wearing the mask, which made it sound like her mom had probably been killed while being Enfys Nest fairly recently, and she's had to take on the mantle in order to attempt to fund this upcoming rebellion.
Yeah, so much so that my husband thought that her mom was the one actually on the train heist. Because, right?
I actually thought that too.
When she said when my mom wore the mask, Corey was like, oh, well, she seemed taller when she was on the train, so it must have been her mom. It's like, I don't think that's what they were going for, but...
No, but that's not a mistake, but certainly like something was messed up there.
I agree.
Like, because people got confused.
Well, I'll put this out there. That's what I thought. Part of the reason why I thought it was, and when they're on the planet at the refinery, she's a little friendlier, a little more willing to talk. When they're on the train, she's there to kick them off the train and take the fuel for herself. That's not like why, especially since she was so friendly with the people at the refinery. Why didn't she? Mm-hmm. It is almost like it is an entirely different person at that point.
And it could be just because like they were tracking them, and like maybe she had some time to think about it. There's lots of supposing, but we didn't get to see it on stage or on the screen. Sorry. So then they go to Kessel. They do the Kessel run the long way. They sneak in, and they use Kira uses this crazy code name. So then they're in Kessel, and we get this sneak in, really cool action scenes. And L3's like, Droid Rebellion!
The scene where she goes, where she's in the room with Kira, and then Kira takes down that guy, and you're watching her, and you're like, she's going to do something. And then she just goes, whoa! And it was so funny to me. I was dying, and nobody in the theater laughed. No one laughed.
That was awesome.
I was dying. I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in a Star Wars film, was the whole droid rebellion. So funny. And she was...
And she's like, restraining bolts. All of the things that I want people to be aware of. L3 was like, you're sentient! Restraining bolts!
You're free now!
You can choose your own way. You're free! And the droid, as soon as the restraining bolt came off, is like, yeah, I'm free! And freaks out, and then starts to free the other people. It was so wonderful. Yeah. And then you get the little droid that's dancing on the console, and and then we get the Chewbacca Wookiee rebellion.
Yeah.
Can I point out one thing with the droid scene, though? When she pulled the restraining bolt off of him, he didn't do anything till he I can't remember if he asked her or if she just said, but
he waited for orders.
Yeah, he waited for orders, and she said, I don't know, go for your friends and have a rebellion.
That's true.
So he did. He was still following orders.
Yeah, because they go to their base protocol when they don't know any better. It's.
But I have to say, we haven't seen a restraining bolt. Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong.
A New Hope.
Right? That's what I thought. We haven't seen an actual restraining bolt since New Hope, and she took it off, and it popped off the same way.
Return of the Jedi.
No, Jabba's Palace.
Return of the Jedi.
That's what it was. But still, original trilogy. That's a big jump since we've seen restraining bolts, right?
Yeah.
Other than extended.
She just rips it off.
That was so cool. I'm so happy, especially for the mainstream audience. People that don't know about the extended universe don't watch, read it, whatever. That's a big jump for mainstream audiences.
Yeah, I'm sure restraining bolts were used in like prequels era.
They didn't talk about it.
They didn't talk about
and
them.
they treated droids like crap in the prequels.
Yes.
Except for Anakin. But anyways.
Yeah. And then we also get the Wookiee Rebellion, which the Wookiee that he like is kind of the main leader other than Chewbacca kind of looked, what did you say, Liam?
First off, that was the ugliest Wookiee I've ever seen. But I got a very Harry and the Hendersons vibe from it.
I actually took it as was it Moon Dancer? He looked a lot like the guy from the opening scenes of 2001.
Yes,
like kind of a monkey.
He looked more animal.
Yeah,
it's a receding hairline.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he didn't have any hair. He didn't have any fur on his face, whereas Chewbacca is completely furred over. So I guess when they get old, their face goes bald.
We know this from the extended canon that in the Mines of Kessel, Wookiees last weeks because they start to die, basically. So that could be like he's losing his hair because he's been on Kessel for a while. Yeah, well, it's from Rebels specifically that they say that Wookiees don't last on Kessel. So, which we get a lot of play from Rebels and Clone Wars in this movie. And I know that there's been a lot of complaints from people who are saying that the movies aren't connected as much, but this movie connected so heavily to Rebels, to Clone Wars, to the past, to the future. Like, I don't know what people want anymore. People don't know what they want anymore.
People want to be angry.
People want to be angry. Yeah. So I really loved the Pike. I really loved the mines. They felt very mine-like. It was all good. And then they stole this raw hyperfuel, which will explode if it gets hot, apparently.
Yeah, or if it's like tossed around, or or the time goes by or something.
Like it's warming up. I think that's what the little thermostat was trying to show. So they get it onto the Millennium Falcon, but before they do that, L3 turns back to try to save more droids, gets shot. Lando loses his shit, tries to save her. Han makes the choice to come and save them. Chewbacca ends up having to save everybody.
So sweet.
It was wonderful, all of those character moments, and then we get them all back on the Millennium Falcon, and all of this was done kind of in a, I don't know, it felt very natural and very, even though it was very rushed in like all of the things, but to me, like Lando, his emotions were very real. Kudos to Donald Glover.
When he was losing L3, that was rough. That was really rough for me. I thought it was super sad.
See, that was one of the death scenes in the movie that hit me, because that was somebody sort of got attached. You didn't have time to get attached to it. It's
not just time, though. It's like the acting performances were really good. And the other characters had gotten to know L3 a little bit, and they were like, we know how this affects you, Lando. Like, we're sorry. Like, they reacted to it, and it was it was good. It was really good. But the fact that she got, as soon as she started dying, I was like, they said something about the navigation or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, like, she's gonna be part of the ship. Like, because we read the Last Jedi novelization.
I was in the theater.
I was flipping my lid, and like,
so for you guys who haven't probably read the Last Jedi novelization, the Millennium Falcon, R2-D2 at one point is talking about it, and he's like, it's tough to get the Millennium Falcon to do anything because it has 3 distinct droid brains and they never get along, but they really like gossip.
One of them does.
Romance,
one of them likes.
One of them really gossip
and dirty
about
jokes.
Romance and dirty jokes. Yeah, and I called it when we read the Last Jedi novelization. I'm like, this is important.
Yeah.
This is a one-liner that's super important. So we talked about it for like a really long time. But yeah, so we know now one, and maybe we will find out the others, which is really cool.
3 movies, 3 droid brains? I mean, I'm not. They wouldn't do that. I don't think they would be that heavy-handed about it. But it's good story fuel.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget. I mean, the hyperdrive computer is like all computers in Star Wars
droids.
are somewhat sentient.
Yeah.
One.
So
yep.
it starts out with one. They then slaved in a second,
and there could be a third later on. Yeah. No, that would be really cool.
Before The Last Jedi too, and I have some deep thoughts about what the Millennium Falcon represents now, and it's really cool.
Exciting.
So we get L3 plugged in there. They're able to, hey, look, a badly animated monster in the middle of a Star Wars movie. I'm not shocked at all.
Well, and right before they turn off into the shortcut, they throw away the standard light and go, I've got a really good feeling about this.
Yeah, that was good.
My husband made a really good point. He said that the big monster was like Cthulhu, and but it was like Cthulhu, but it was also kind of like what is the sea monster? The Kraken. And so they went from being like they went into the whole like swashbuckling pirate trope of them being pulled into a whirlpool, and the Kraken is in there too, and I loved that. I thought that was a really good idea.
Well, at one point, like the space Kraken,
exactly,
space Kraken, gets its skin ripped off. It's like
I noticed that too,
sucked into the. I was like, what am I?
It's being pulled into the singularity.
Yeah, it gets peeled by a gravity
And they
well.
add the raw fuel into the fusion reactor of the Millennium Falcon, which has got to be good for
and
the
they're like,
tailpipe.
now? And he's
I'm
like,
sure.
Now?
They blew the tailpipe right off that ship.
And like he blew out the landing gear. Like, oh man, Han is like hard on
the dish.
Off the dish.
ripped off the dish, which we I heard laughter about
for the first time.
Some people got that one, which was really good. And then they blast out of there, out of the quickest exit, basically.
Well, and they
escape
eject
pod.
the escape pod, which I've said in previous episodes, I love a good red herring, and there was so much speculation about that nose that was on the Millennium Falcon, and then it's just like, oh, well, let's just let's get rid of that. And that was all there was to it.
Yeah, as to make the Kraken thing chase it.
Yeah.
As like bait.
And you said it was spoiled.
People made such a big deal about this escape pod on the nose of the Millennium Falcon that this is obviously going to be a pivotal thing because it's such a glaring change to a well-known ship. And then, no, let's just fart that thing off so it has something to chase.
But I like how they also covered that early on with Lando saying that that's a custom escape pod that he attached into the nose wedge. So I'm like, so everybody's like, oh my god, that's different. I'm like, oh, okay, that explains that a bit to me. All right.
No, because we know that there's multiple escape pods because Rey takes the escape pod. Yeah, a little coffin pod.
Yeah, the little
that
coffin
says
pod.
return to Han Solo. On that side. Does that work?
I could see Lando having an escape pod that's a little bit more luxurious. Maybe has room for two.
Oh, it has to be. It was a lot bigger than a coffin pod.
I mean,
yeah.
The coffin pod has room for two, depending on how you're placed.
It has room for two if one of them's Lando.
Or Ben Solo. Just saying.
Hey. No,
or Chewie and Han.
You know.
I mean, the shower scene.
Hey, at least Han would have a comfortable sleep.
Nothing is restful. Only the best laps. Wookiee laps. And we get a nice play of music when the Empire shows up just before they get into the space Kraken scene. When the Star Destroyer comes out of the cloud, you get this play of the Imperial Star Destroyer theme, which is it's the da 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 Empire is there. And I recognized it immediately because I was like, hey, it's the Empire theme. And where you've heard that before is actually in The Last Jedi when the iron is coming down in the laundry room and it looks like a ship. Yeah, you hear that there too. So just listen for it. It's pretty cool. It just set me up for like, oh, it's the Empire. Cool.
Well, and visually that was beautiful. Having the Star Destroyer in that vortex.
Mm-hmm.
And then him kind of almost half piping the Millennium Falcon, and just all of that scene was just really wonderful. And then we get Chewbacca in there in the co-pilot seat where they're meant to be. We get like through that scene,
and the big music pop when Chewie sits in his seat.
We get the main theme battle fanfare. All throughout that, like so much play of it. We got way more main theme in this movie than we got, because Han, whenever he was in action in the original trilogy, he always got the main theme played for him, this battle fanfare, like that theme. We got way more of it in this movie than we got in The Last Jedi or in TFA
Absolutely.
combined.
That's what was so distracting to me. Like, as soon as they sit down and they're piloting the Millennium Falcon, I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's a bit much.
Exactly.
A bit much, but...
Yeah, and we got the asteroid play during the scene. We got the Falcon theme music that was John Williams wrote for The Force Awakens. It was like this crazy mix of all of these different themes that I recognized. And so they get out, they get to the refinery planet, which is not controlled by anybody, and they start to refine just in the nick of time. And they call Drayden, and Drayden's going to show up, and then the Cloud Riders show up.
Yeah, and then that music plays again, which is so epic. So epic.
So, yeah, we talked a little bit about her taking off the mask and the reveal that she's actually probably and the Cloud Riders are part of the rebellion, or the formation of
the start of the rebellion,
the Rebel Alliance. So the part that they're part of is called the rebellion.
Yeah. She calls it the rebellion. She says this is the start of the rebellion. So what's so cool about her character, though, is that she is this mix kind of race person. I mean, she's got totally.
Yeah,
she's
has
got
a very
red,
cool look to
curly hair, freckles, but she's obviously got like colored, like she's black, but she's not representative of any like race or any human or any species or anything like that. Like, she's just this really interesting person, and like God knows what they're trying to, God knows like what the intention is with her. Feel free to cut any of this out, by the way. But no, like, honestly, like she represents like a real person to me. She represents like what the viewers want to see themselves as, and being a part of the spark of the rebellion, because that's what's been like.
And she was young.
She's super young. Oh yeah,
too.
She's super young, but she's also, I mean, come on, giving a character like that, like, what is it, like a Northern British or Scottish accent, you're tapping into a like intellectual character too with that accent. So, I mean,
she was very well cast, and once the mask came off, especially, she played the role very well.
Because like you could do the rest with stunt doubles, you know.
With
you know, the train stuff.
Yeah, but she was there to give the character meaning and purpose, and she did a really good job of that.
Yeah, it didn't feel like any kind of agenda was trying to be had with her, representation wise. It felt like she was a real person to me. It felt like, just like kind of like Rosa's character, you know. It felt like she was someone that the director or the writer, whoever cast her, whoever felt it was necessary, was like, that is Enfys Nest.
She was the tap on the. I took it as she was sort of the tap on Solo's moral compass. There's the money. Tap, tap, tap.
Yeah.
And there's
No,
the
that's
right
true.
thing.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
We even get the verbiage of that with the conversation with him and Kira is like, I'm a terrible person, which mirrors The Last Jedi and how Rey and him have that conversation. I'm a monster. It's like, are you? Okay, dude. But I want to kind of get to the end here because, you know, we get Drayden shows up and they sneak in and they do the whole like guns in the cases with the money, and we get the
double
the,
cross.
like old switcheroo. Like we used the real money in this situation.
It was the third act was a
shows
trope too. Let's just be honest here. It was a trope. Everything was a trope, but in a good way.
Yeah. And, you know, we get the elevator scene on the way up and Kira acting super weird, which mirrors, again, The Last Jedi. There's a lot of that mirroring it.
It's always an elevator scene.
Yeah. Always the elevator scenes. Yeah. And then we get this, like, you know, Tobias Beckett had previous, like, no, I'm heading out. But then we get the double cross as well. And we get the triple cross, like, basically.
Yeah. The standard I told you not to trust anybody.
Yes. And
which anytime somebody in a movie says don't trust anybody, you know that they're meaning don't trust me because I'm going to betray you in the third act.
Yeah, there was a lot of those tropes, and I think some of them played better than others.
Yeah.
And then we get the cool fight. We get to find out that, oh no, that's actually the fuel. And, you know, Dryden's people are attacking the Cloud Riders, and the Cloud Riders had done the mask on the different person situation.
Well, and a good cameo in the Cloud Riders of Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he got so much play. He was the best.
I was so glad he got speaking line and he didn't get cut.
I hope they do Willow
too. Yes, that's a rumor. Or no, that's
so
they're
bad.
Actually supposed to be doing that. Yeah,
they're trying to work on
discussions.
it, and Ron Howard will probably direct, which would be really great.
Well, and during the fight with Drayden Voss, we got to see a lot more of his trophy room that he's in with his collection.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there was a set of Mandalorian armor amongst the trophies, as well as the golden idol from the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
was on one of the tables in there.
Oh, nice, nice.
I was too busy geeking out over his little lightsaber, the daggers he had. Those were lightsabers. There's a Kyber running in those.
That's a good point. It's
cool.
not. It wasn't the same stuff that the Praetorian Guards weapons were running off of.
I think it.
No,
I think it was.
No, because it was red.
They had something similar. They were running.
Yeah. Well, the Praetorian Guards in Last Jedi had red ones.
They were energized weaponry too. That was sort of a Sith-ish weapon.
Yeah, I have to look more into it, but
it's cool.
Yeah.
And then we get the, "Oh, go on without me," Kira line.
I just got to gather the jewels. You go ahead. I'll catch up.
Yeah,
that was so obvious, but I thought she was gonna blow up the whole yacht. I thought she was gonna kill herself and the whole yacht, but.
And then we get the thing that everybody's freaking out about as far as this cameo.
Boo.
She takes the ring off of her old boss and assumes the mantle. And plugs it into the thing, and we get Ray Park and the voice of Sam Witwer, who plays Maul in the Clone Wars as well as in Star Wars Rebels. And wow, I could watch them be together all day. And you get to see his mechanical legs. Yep. Which is cool. And Sam Witwer's voice was amazing. Ray Park looked solid in the character. And he does the force grab of his lightsaber, and it's the Inquisitor lightsaber. Long.
That was a cool lightsaber.
It's broken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I took that as it was very the way I saw it. It was very similar to the lightsaber he was using in Rebels.
No, it is the lightsaber he was using in Rebels. Yeah. So an Inquisitor had gone after him long before he was stuck on Malachor. And he stole that lightsaber from that Inquisitor long before. Because that was not the lightsaber that he had when he was hanging out with his brother in Clone Wars.
Well, and it makes sense with the timing of the movie then, because it's set after Clone Wars but before Rebels.
Before Rebels, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he still has and his mechanical legs should have been less mechanical than that. They seemed very pre-visiting the witches on the witches of Dathomir.
That could have just been a matter of translating animated to live action.
Yeah, and they were also trying to like communicate to the mainstream audiences what was different. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to make it obvious.
Well, this was the if we sort of go with the canon, by that point in time, he'd already gotten the Dathomir legs.
Yeah.
they'd already been beat. He'd already gotten them, the crowd kicked out of him. He'd gotten the, whatever droid parts were available on the pirate ship. So they were pretty clunky. And how much work had to be done to keep them up and running by that point?
Because this was after the Battle of Mandalore, which we don't really know much about. So he could have lost his legs again. And then had them fixed again. So there's a comic series called The Sons of Dathomir. This is a right around kind of after that.
I saw this movie with a friend of mine who has not watched the cartoons at all or read any of the extended universe, anything at all. He's only seen the movies, and he was so confused when the movie ended. He was like, "Wait, so when does this movie take place? I don't understand. How is Darth Maul still alive?" And I had to explain everything to him. And there was a couple of people next to us that were like chiming in because they were also like fans of the show. So they were talking to, like, we were at the fan event. We were at like the 6:00 viewing on Thursday night. So, but he was so confused, and I'm like, this is how most people are gonna be. They're gonna be like, why is Darth Maul alive? What the hell is going on?
Well, yeah. During the credits, I heard a couple of conversations of the same thing of people having Darth Maul explained to them around the theater.
It just makes sense that they're gonna have to do another movie.
Well, that's like I was saying, they're not gonna throw away a cameo like that just for cameo's sake. That was world building. They did that on purpose.
And we get this beautiful scene of Kira in that compartmentalization type character move, just buggering off and going to see Maul, and Maul was like, we're gonna work very closely together.
Which means there's gonna be another movie.
She's the new apprentice.
Yep.
I mean, it definitely left the door wide open for more movies, for more storytelling, and we have about 10 years of time.
When Han went to go find Lando to get the Millennium Falcon, I was like, wait a minute. This movie is not over. There's no way this movie is over. And I kept leaning over to Corey. I was like, there's no way this is the end. Oh my God, this is the end. Oh my God, this is the end? Like, are you kidding me? I was so upset. But then I realized, wait a minute, they might do another movie. And then I was okay. But before that, I was not okay with the way that this movie ended at all. Like, not...
It was a very Back to the Future end.
Exactly.
Like, them... Yeah, like Back to the Future. And even when they did the original Back to the Future, they didn't know they were going to make more. And they just kind of left it open from a storytelling perspective. This is like a fan fiction writer's dream.
Yeah.
Like, it's open. Let's just write stuff. Like, it was like a play to both, hey, look at all this canon stuff that we locked into place for all of you. And now look at all this transformational open threads and plot bunnies that are left for you.
Oh, yeah. It's going to happen.
I did want to bring up kind of the major themes that I saw, and then we can kind of discuss them. But love was actually a major theme. And why I talk about themes in this way is that themes are when things are mentioned at least 3 times. And love was mentioned so much. They had an entire fire chat conversation about love and what it means to find your partner. And Rio's like, I don't need a partner. And then he brings it up later. It's like, maybe I should have had somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
aww.
You know, like he got to have this Han thrown in his face so many times, you know, and about how some people choose their careers over love in a way. You know, and some people choose to have their careers be with their loved one, like Val and Beckett. Love was a major theme.
See, I'll give it this. Han, it's like the song, you know, if you try sometimes, you might just find what you need. Han did find family and he did find love. Just not with the woman. He got a large, hairy companion.
Yes.
It's his best friend, it's his brother, it's his everything. You know, Chewie and him are family.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of that love conversation, which I was surprised at how much centered around that. Liam, love.
Sorry, I was just
missed connections.
Speaking of Han finding true love in the form of Chewie, and my belief in the internet doing wonderful, awful things, and remembering back to what the internet did with the throne room fight scene from The Last Jedi, I'm just picturing what really lovely love songs like Unchained Melody and things like that the internet is going to superimpose over the shower scene.
The time of my life.
And then Chewie comes in on the shower.
Oh.
Or that Ghost, when they're like doing the pottery.
Yeah.
Ghost, like that song, whatever song that was, like over top of that scene. Yeah, there's so many options.
So yeah, I was distracted by thinking of dumb internet things, and yeah, that's got my brain full right now. So yeah, love, good, go.
I got a question for everybody since I'm actually going to need to bail in a couple of minutes. But here's the question. Was it just me, or did you find that because of the... I don't want to make a shot because it's going to come across as this. But there's so many amazing acting chops in this movie that... I just blanked on his name, the star. Solo.
Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah, Ehrenreich got kind of... He's a good actor, but he was... He's a good actor, but he was playing with some serious major leagues. I sort of felt that, half the time he felt like he was underacting in comparison to everybody.
Go ahead.
You put that guy on screen, sharing the screen with Woody Harrelson and Emilia Clarke and Donald Glover and Paul Bettany, and like these are powerhouses that it would have been impossible for him to be the star of every scene.
Yeah, and.
Yeah.
He honestly, like, Lord and Miller were trying to make him a punchline, according to Lawrence Kasdan. And Lawrence Kasdan hated that. He didn't want Han to be a punchline. So when they were filming initially, he was told to be a lot more funny than what he was. And so when they did the second round of filming, I feel like maybe he felt more vulnerable. Or he was trying to feel more vulnerable, and therefore the insecurities came out, and that is what made it feel real. Because Han's character in that movie is supposed to be... He's supposed to be learning. He's supposed to not be on the same level as some of these other characters. He's not supposed to be as self-interested.
And there isn't the bravado yet, right? Because he doesn't have that bravado.
He's the kid brother trying to seem cool.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he was on set, which is so awesome about it.
Yeah, I don't know that he underacted. I think that he definitely showed as this, like, still learning, still not quite there yet, as these other characters have fully developed, right? And he's still figuring it out.
I shouldn't say I don't think he underacted. I think he did a great job. But, and I mean, he's a great actor, but I felt that, like I said, he was... There is no way to say this. He almost seemed like he was, he's a major league player, but he's competing against the all-star team for
the whole idea of things are happening to Han. Han doesn't take initiative to what happens to him. Like, I don't know. I feel like Lawrence Kasdan and Jonathan Kasdan wrote him in that way. He didn't get a lot of lines. If you look back on the movie, he doesn't have a lot of lines, even though the movie's about him, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think he did really well. I think that Harrison Ford has come out a couple of times to talk about Alden's performance, and he's been dumping praises on him. And I think it's totally genuine.
Yeah, I think it is too. And he doesn't talk. He just doesn't talk if he doesn't like stuff. Harrison Ford. He literally shuts down. He's like, yeah, it was okay.
He's all soloed twice so far. Yeah.
What?
Well, and he's come out multiple times and talked about how much he hated the character. So that's big props to show that he likes it that much.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I also just kind of wanted to call back and say, like, the absence of family and trying to find your family but not quite getting there and trying to find your place. Same with even tying into the Droid and Wookiee Rebellion about, like, trying to find who you are in these growth and these overall journeys to be rebellion and liberation stories very much tie into becoming who you are and trying to get out and become free and find your truth. And that's what a lot of this movie was about, and it was played several times in several different ways. And in the end, Han ends up becoming one of Jabba's smugglers. Which was not his truth.
That's how it
he
starts.
steps into the shoes of his
how it
mentor directly into the path that he was on his way. Like he was on his way there to do that next.
Yeah.
But he didn't learn what he really needed to learn, which is interesting. Because he's still kind of alone with his Wookiee. You go be over there with your Wookiee.
I'm going to need to bail on this. So.
All right, James, thank you very much for joining us in this conversation.
Aww,
yep, sorry, got to go be a
good dad.
Go be a good dad.
Yeah. We'll settle for not letting my child drown at the pool. All right.
Bye,
Take
James.
care.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Yeah, so was there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up from a theme perspective that you saw?
I don't know. The absence of family was like really important to me because I thought that was it was like family, like you said, always, you know, whereas it's always about family. Where's the family in Solo? You know, and as soon as the movie started, when I said, you know, earlier, as soon as I saw him and Kira get separated, I thought, oh, all my speculation gone, because this is not about family. This is about, this is sad. Like, it's a bummer of a film when it comes to that theme, at least. And by the end of it, I was so happy that she didn't die. I was so happy that she became her own character, crime boss.
Yeah.
And she didn't try to manipulate Han into becoming something that he wasn't. There was this weird line that her character walked where she did not want him to be with her, but he wanted her to be with him, and she overcame that with her own agency, and that was awesome. I was super happy about that. I was super happy with how they treated her character. But what does that mean for Han? And what that means is that he hasn't found his family yet. He's broken. And and can we just say that Han shot first?
Yes, we can now officially say Han shot first.
They literally took a whole film to tell us that Han shot first. Sorry.
Liam?
For me, I think the theme that I was getting from it, both within the movie and of the movie itself, was the defiance of expectation. That things were, we knew things were going to go sideways because that's the way. I mean, there's not much of a plot if they don't, but the way that they reacted to it was not the way that anyone else around them would have expected them to react. And for the movie itself, again, going back to the movie versus the trailer, that it was a completely different movie than what I expected it to be. I really expected the train heist to be at the like a third act big sequence at the apex of the movie, not kind of a character introduction tool. But overall, yeah, I definitely agree with the themes of love and family were kind of first and foremost.
Just weird that like it was the absence of family that called attention to that there was no family. You know, like that was it. And I've mentioned this a few times, like in art, when you have the absence of color or the absence
sound,
of light or sound or the absence when, like in The Last Jedi, when the Holdo maneuver happens and it goes through Snoke's ship, the absence of sound makes it more clear that that's what this is about. And so the absence of family and the fact that they mention it, because things come in threes at least, right? And if things are mentioned more than 3 times, or you can see it more than 3 times, it's definitely a theme. And that's what's missing from Han's life. And that's why, and I wanted to just briefly talk about the mask of Enfys Nest. And she's basically a child soldier of the rebellion and the opposite of Kylo. So in the theme, or in the scene when she takes off her mask. She's entirely in sunlight. It's a beautifully lit set. Like it's a desert and it's lit and there's light everywhere, and she is still in a mask. And then when Han meets Kylo on the bridge, it's dark. It's all darkness, and he takes off the mask, and they both take off the mask, and then they have these conversations about their equal but opposite looks and perspectives. And Kylo is on the dark, and Enfys Nest is on the light. It was really striking from a parallel perspective for me.
Well, and having the somebody who is really played as a villain character throughout to turn out to be really the good guy or the protagonist of it, I thought was a good turn, and they did a really nice job of that.
Yeah, because she was, from the bad guy's perspective, she was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at like what they're trying to do with masks now in Star Wars, is they're telling us that if the villain is wearing a mask, then what is underneath is something they don't want you to see, and that creates a vulnerability. And that vulnerability means that they might not be as bad as what you think that they are. That's the whole point with Vader. That's the whole point with the Stormtroopers. That's Kylo.
The whole point with Enfys.
Enfys. Like, all of our...
So, major theme, because it's happened more than 3 times.
All of our real villains, Snoke, Darth Sidious, Palpatine, like, they are the real villains. Dryden Voss, they don't wear masks. They're ugly on the outside, exactly. But, and I can't help but see that. I can't help but see that theme happening with it, and who Kylo Ren is becoming or whatever. Whoever he'll be in 9, we'll see if he continues to put on the mask or whatever. Who knows? And who knows what that'll mean. But yeah, it's definitely a theme. Masks used to be, like with Vader was covering the ugly because he had become ugly. But that changed with the prequels, and that changed with the sequels, and that changed with Clone Wars. So...
Well, Vader's was also life support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vader's mask was him. He literally was dead. Like, Vader... Like, Anakin was dead. He only lived through Vader. It's such a different... Like, they're not paralleling Vader anymore. Vader is Vader, and he stays in the past. There is no villain like Vader anymore. So I don't think that they're trying to do that with any characters.
Well, and as soon as Empire Strikes Back, they said, so Star Wars is Star Wars. Yeah. Star Wars: A New Hope. But as soon as Empire Strikes Back happened, there was a redemption arc built.
Yeah.
Because they said, oh, there's actually a human with a past behind this monster. So, I mean, we're in this storytelling that is constantly changing and adapting and growing, and things that mean one thing now mean a different thing later. I actually think that I feel a lot more for Han Solo now. I think that was a part of the point, is like, make this kid human.
Well, and it's what they tried to do in the prequels for Darth Vader, and I feel what they succeeded to do here. Like they,
Well, I mean, I think that Clone Wars actually did that for me.
Clone Wars I found did a better job of it than the prequels did. But they the references and the tie-ins seemed a lot more organic. They didn't seem forced. They didn't seem like they were breaking the fourth wall, like looking at the camera. Oh, did you catch that? They did. They made it subtle, and they made it real. Kind of like on the train scene, there's a reference to Bosk, and then little things here and there, and they just they made it because it's part of the world, not because they need to show it to the audience.
Yeah, all the tie-ins.
And Aura Singh, Tobias Beckett had killed Aura Singh, which I was like, what? So I mean, they're definitely weaving in and out of canon, and they're opening the door for more and more storytelling, which I'm always a big fan of. And they built these incredibly detailed, beautiful worlds that they didn't explain everything in.
Yeah, which
was great because then there's more stories.
Well, and they just put it there and they let it be what it is instead of specifically defining and spoon feeding everything to the audience.
Except for translating Han doing tree work. Which is spoon feeding.
Well, I think they kind of had to. They did that to show that he knew a little bit, but that he wasn't fluent.
Yeah.
Like it was showing that yes, I know
but
enough.
He could understand what he was saying.
But it was I know enough of your language to communicate. But I think they translated it specifically to show that it was a broken version of the language. It was just enough to get by, which is kind of a Han Solo thing.
It is. Yeah, I felt like a lot of the references were, like you said, it was very natural, and it fit within the universe of the extended universe very, very, very seamlessly. And again, I said this on like Twitter a while back, that when you start looking at these parallels and these references no longer as Easter eggs, then you really start to understand the Star Wars story and the Star Wars universe, and you start to appreciate it a lot more as a collaborative storytelling thing. And the Darth Maul is not an Easter egg. Like,
no, he is
that was
a powerful character in that
exactly
universe.
So when you stop and therefore the syndicate, what's the name of the main syndicate in the spice? No, not that's Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn.
The one, the Shadow Collective, and oh my god, the one that controls the spice mines. Oh, well, they're not the Pike, the Pike Syndicate. Like that's not a reference. That's not like a Easter egg. That is a part of the story that's being told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Easter egg is the Indiana Jones
exactly.
Idol. But the rest of it is just these
are
parts of this universe, and everything they've shown how interconnected that universe is. So,
exactly.
Yeah, they're just things.
And even
that
though
are
it's
there.
a different story, it still is one story. Sounding like a broken record again.
It's important, but I think it's
story.
really important to differentiate, the Easter eggs from what is not. Like I didn't feel like I needed to take out my bingo card for all the references that I wish would have been there. I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like C-3PO and R2-D2 should have been in there because that wasn't a part of that story.
I'm happy they weren't.
Too.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, because at some point we're going to get to a movie that is set before they exist or after they exist. And let's just get that bullet out of the way and not have them in the movie at all.
Had they been there, they would have had to have been shoehorned in.
Yeah, it would have been.
Whereas it made sense that they were on Yavin in Rogue One for that moment. It was fine, Yeah. Overall, enjoyed the movie. Now that we've had this long discussion,
I want to see it again.
Definitely,
I want to see it again, and I want to focus on the score a little bit more. And I want to not be sitting next to a person that's like, oh, it's Darth Maul, before we even saw Darth Maul's face. That would have been nice. But yeah.
Or bouncing in their
bouncing
seat
is fine. I was bouncing sometimes.
No, that was fine. It was adding to the enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah, enjoyment is good.
So
spoiling is not.
So we liked it a lot, and I'm looking forward to talking about this more. I'm trying to get somebody to talk about the score with me. I'd like to talk more about love in this movie, Kai. And generally the Wookiee Liberation Front liked this movie, so that's great. I'm going to say you can find James at Skull's Armory on Facebook or at Skullflare on Twitter because he had to leave early. Liam, where can they find you?
You can find me on my podcast, which is called A Story Not Forgotten. James and Mary Claire have both been guests on the show, so Ty, no pressure. But we've got to get you over there too.
I would love to be. That's so sweet.
See, You can find me on Facebook there with A Story Not Forgotten, on Twitter at A Story Not Forgot, or our website is capturinglegacies.com, and just hit the podcast link for that. For when I'm making pictures instead of sounds, you can find me at Trath Originals, which is TRATH Originals, which is trathoriginals.com, or Trath Originals on Facebook, and I think I'm at Trath on Instagram, but I always forget to use it.
And Ty, where can they find you?
They can find me on YouTube at Wit and Folly, WITFOLLY, or they can find me on Twitter at Black_TYM.
Awesome. I am Marie Claire Gould, and I am at Marie C. Gould on Twitter. The website is whattheforce.ca. We're on Facebook at What the Force. We're on Twitter at WT Force Show. Just reach out to us and start a conversation. We love to talk about Star Wars. That's what we do all day long. And I hope you enjoyed Solo. And cheers.
I'll see you after the Lando movie.